got a cool little video for y'all today. Goes Heavy D Sparks wants the legendary BroDozer to be put on tracks. The only tricky part is we have a big 10 lug pattern here. Then we have to go to this weird 9 lug pattern on the mat tracks. So that's gonna be a pretty weird adapter. But I'm gonna take you all along for the ride, give you kind of a behind the scenes of what I do in the shop and some of the custom contraptions I'll build to make Heavy D's crazy ideas come to life. So I think my plan will be, I'll create a 1/2-inch plate to mount to this lug pattern, a second 1/2-inch plate to mount to this bolt pattern, and then we'll have to combine the two and space them apart about 2 inches. So my thoughts with that are, we have all these slots here, which there are 21 of them total. And so we'll use each of those slots to run a bolt through with some sort of spacer to this plate. So this outside diameter will be like roughly 19 inches. So it fits in between this outer ring. And then we'll have 21 holes with something to space it out about 2 inches. And that's how the two faces will bolt together. We've got a ton of these aluminum dowels that we used to use on the 6x6 tracks. They used to get sandwiched right in there, but since they didn't rotate, they were gripping the track too much, so we had to switch to this design with this rotating plastic on the outside. So we have a ton of these lying around with no use for, but they're gonna be great for me to use as spacers for my adapters. Okay, here's the plate that'll bolt to the mat tracks with the 9 lug pattern, as well as the 21 bolts on the outside. So then from there, we have the aluminum dowels, they'll space it out. And then after that is the plate that'll bolt to the BroDozer. So it has the 10 lug pattern with the matching 21 hole pattern. And then we'll have bolts coming out of the 9 lug pattern to bolt to the mat tracks. We'll just have a ton of 1/2-inch bolts that go around the outside to attach the two together. So yeah, I think it's about time to go to the plasma table and throw a bunch of sparks. Big sparks incoming. So the plasma table cuts these small holes decently. And so right now a 1/2-inch bolt won't fit through them, but we'll run it through the 1/2-inch punch, and then those holes will be perfectly centered at the bottom. Okay, I got this plate bolted to the track with nuts tightened right now, and now I'm going to weld the heads to this plate so they're actually like studs. So I got a little stopper clamped in there. Just gotta load up the piece, crank it on in there, fire up the saw. Have these weights added to help pull it down even more. Easy as that. Next step is take the dowel over to the lathe. Tighten it in there. And then use the lathe to get rid of any burrs on the edges. So that'll be a perfectly flush mating surface. Finally got all the aluminum dowels cut out. That was time consuming, but they should work great. Now comes the tedious part of mating these two faces together with all my spacers. Now we already have these 5-inch long bolts at the shop, which are a little bit long for my application. But I'm gonna make them work anyway so we don't have to buy new bolts. Because we also have a giant box of these 5/8 nuts. It'll space it out great. And then the 1/2-inch nut will go on there fine and they'll work for this scenario. There we go. So you get a 9-bolt pattern on a 10-lug M-ramp axle. Let's slap the track on. Ooh, all right. This is looking pretty good. We can't really drive it yet because I don't have the anti-roll brackets in place yet. So I'm gonna try to remove this plate and use that to build off of my anti-roll bracket. And this is perfect because it steers with the hub. Alrighty, I finished the design for the anti-roll bracketry for the BroDozer tracks. Starting over here, this bracket bolts to the bottom of the steering knuckle of the axle, so it's able to steer with the tracks. And then a bolt runs through there, so that's a pivot point. And then this bar goes across to this other pivot point here to this bracket. And this bracket, this square tube design sleeves over a square tube that's already in the track that has this rubber collar that allows it to rock forward and back a little bit. And then all these little holes will have nuts welded to them and then bolts that drive in to clamp it to the square tube of the track. And then all these open channels will get welded. And that is what will keep the track from doing a complete 360 around the hub, but still allowing for a little articulation to make it over obstacles and stuff. So, time to cut out the pieces and fab it up. Okay, I have these axle brackets welded up. This other 1/2-inch plate goes on there to give it even more strength to hold the bearing in on the steering knuckle. And then the 4th one's already on the truck, so I'll go take you guys over there. Alrighty, here's this piece mounted to the axle. So then that bar will go over here and then mount to the 2nd bracket. And here's that square tube I was talking about with the rubber bushings all around it. Allow it to rock a little bit. So we don't really have any square tube that's ideal for this situation, so I think I'm going to trim this rectangular tube in half into 2 halves, cut all the way down the middle, and then weld a new plate to make my 2 sides for that. And then it'll cap over, and I'll also have a tube on the inside here to support the bolt. Whatever, it'll make sense later. Okay, I got my rectangle tube perfectly lined up on the plasma table, and I'm able to manually control this. And I think buzzing this and then flipping it over and buzzing it again will be the easiest way to get a perfectly straight, clean cut. So let's give it a shot. Now for the other side. Here's that. This plate, bend it at a right angle at that line, and this will be the closing side for this channel that we cut out earlier. So once I bend that, I'll cut this where it needs to be, and I'll get 2 more links out of that piece there. First I gotta clean up this edge though, it's gross for welding. Now, since there's only holes on that plate, I'm using the mag drill to drill all the way through the bottom, because that gives me a nice solid vertical hole. Now we'll clean all this stuff. Okay, now I'm going to work on welding the nuts to these plates before we get them welded into the whole structure of the bracket. Well, there we go. It's all on its tracks. We got all the brackets done. We as in me and you guys. So it's past midnight, so I think I'll head home now. But I am stoked with how she turned out.
The next day.
Okay, another bonus project that just got added to the docket is they want a big rear winch on the BroDozer. What I'm thinking is, since there's not a lot of good real estate to work with there, we'll open up the mini tailgate and I'll tie into these bars. So you open up your tailgate whenever you want to use your winch. And that should work fine. I already have the winch I'm gonna use chilling in here. So I think it's gonna be simple as one plate that goes behind these bars with the hole pattern and a slot cut out for the rope to go through. And I'll just weld it to these bars and bolt it up, and I think that'll be it. All right, another little bonus project. So I've removed the spare tire, and Dave wants a spare track up here. Except the other tracks we got kicking around are a different track and a different bolt pattern, so it's not even gonna be usable, but Dave just wants it there for aesthetic appeal, which will look cool to have a fifth track chilling up here. So to get it up here, I've drilled these 4 holes, and then here's one of the adapters designed for that track. And these holes line up with that, so I use 4 bolts to put the adapter on, and then the track will just bolt to it. Got all wrapped up with a spare track, no hidden winch, and even some matching overlays to make these tracks pop even more. Let's load it on the trailer. Bring her to the right a little bit.
The next day.
Sweet, we're back to the shop now. All my adapters and brackets work perfectly, so I'm stoked about that. So thank you guys for watching the video. This was kind of the first kind of video that I've done. It was more of an educational behind the scenes of some typical work days here at Sparks Motors. So let me know in the comments if you like this style video, or at least please consider liking the video. If I get enough likes, I'll take that as you guys want to see more videos like this. Also, thank you very much to Heavy D for putting me on cool projects like this. I assume most of you guys are coming over here from his channel, so big welcome to you guys. Hope you stick around. Although if you haven't seen Heavy D's video of this yet, definitely go to his channel at Heavy D Sparks to go see the recovery we just did with this. So, peace.